Well, we've actually had that same exact problem in our class, and Heifetz and Linsky say in the book that they refer to the zone of productivity. And basically this entails you stepping outside of the zone and looking to, if for some reason no one is participating in the discussions or people are just very passive, you need to raise the heat and you need to pose questions that people will get excited about and people will actually come to the group and start giving information. But also if there's too much heat, then in the zone you need to step back and kind of let things cool down and take a step back and let things go.
One of the things we have to remember is that being in a position of authority is not necessarily synonymous with leadership. Doing your job and engaging in the process of leadership are not the same thing. In fact, most times when people just do their job, they're not actually engaging in the process of leadership because they're just doing what they were told, and they're living up to just the expectations that the organization gave them. One of the things that it means to be a leader is to challenge the expectations and to challenge the status quo. One of the things that you can do to help better leadership in your organization is to identify the adaptive challenges and to start on the process of working to fix those adaptive challenges.
One thing we like to talk about in our classes is speaking to loss. This is something that Heifetz and Linsky bring up in their textbook. Speaking to loss is basically when you address an issue of loss that someone may be feeling by an idea that you may bring up. So if you're bringing up a new idea in your organization and a lot of people are pushing back on you, it is probably not because they don't like the idea, but it's because they feel like they may be losing one of their favorite traditions of that organization. So what we would suggest is that you kind of address that. You address what they think they're losing, what they could be gaining from your new idea, and you try and incorporate their favorite part of their current traditions into your idea, and it should solve the problem.
Often when a challenge seems too big to handle or you're not really sure where to go or where to start from, it's probably because you're too close to the situation. In the Heifetz and Linsky book, they use the analogy of being on the dance floor. And on the dance floor, you can only see what's immediately around you. And so what we say in class is that we need to get up on the balcony and we need to take a step back and take a larger look at the problem from a step away and not just being immediately in the situation. That way, when you're on the balcony, you can see problems that are key issues that are evident when you're up there versus when you're on the dance floor.
Adaptive leadership, as defined by Heifetz and Linsky in our textbook, is the practice of mobilizing adaptive work. An adaptive challenge, though, is something that is a complex issue that needs complex solutions. It's not a quick fix. It's not something that you can just kind of put a Band-Aid over. Instead, an adaptive challenge requires that you commit to sacrifices of your values, beliefs, and sometimes even actions. Not necessarily all your values and beliefs, but certain ones that are prohibiting your organization from reaching its potential. Some of the things that an adaptive challenge might look like might be if an organization's culture isn't allowing women to use their voice and to speak up within the organization. That's something that's not just going to be easily fixed or easily talked about. It's something that requires a lot of work and a lot of patience, and something that'll happen over time. One of the key things that we've learned in this class is that in order to do adaptive work, you not only need the patience, but you also need the support from others in your organization. Going into leadership alone is definitely dangerous, and you definitely want the support from your peers.
I cannot define the word leader. It is banned from the Leadership Studies minor and specifically Dr. Van Orn's class. Instead, we like to use the phrase engaging in the process of leadership. By using the word leader, it restricts you to a set of characteristics that does not allow you to be flexible. With the phrase engaging in the process of leadership, it allows you to be more creative with the different situations may arise.
One of the first things that you realize in the Leadership Studies minor is that processes are everywhere. Whether it's in your daily life, your family life, or your organizations, you realize that processes guide all the activities that you do. One of the ways that a process might work is in a family aspect. Let's just say one of the little kids in the family got an idea for a family vacation. One of the first steps in the process might be to do some research on that idea. That second step of the process might be to present the idea to their parents. Third step, of course, being the parents get to decide on whether or not they do that vacation. Another way a process might work with an organization, or this class for example, is the process that we took to get to this symposium. The first step in this process was brainstorming what we as a class thought was important to portray to our professors and students in the Leadership Studies minor that we had learned. The second step of the process was deciding how to portray that information that we had just decided on in the first phase. The final phase is this symposium right here that we are doing right now. It's the culmination of the first and second step that we took in order to make this event the best event that we could. As you begin to realize, processes, like I said, are all over the place in your daily life, in your family life, and in organizations. At the basic premise of a process is the steps that you took to achieve a certain outcome. What's your A, B, C, D, all the way to Z? That's the most important thing about the process. The second most important thing about the process is also being able to reflect on it, and being able to realize what you were able to learn throughout.
In order for organizations to succeed, you need to think of it as a system. This means that in organization, systems exist in which work is actually produced. A quote we live by in the Leadership Studies minor is, "Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it currently gets." If an organization is underachieving, you need to look at the system as a whole.
I would say that the most important takeaway for me after studying the Leadership Studies minor would definitely be the practice or the art of reflection. Before going through this minor, I never really took the time out of my day to reflect on experiences or to reflect on issues that I've been having. But I've learned that through doing so, you not only are able to learn a lot about yourself, but you're able to learn about different ways to handle certain situations. One of the most important things really that goes along with reflection is critical thinking. Being critical not only of yourself, but of also your peers, your organization, and your actions. What are you doing that allows your organization to succeed? Or otherwise, are you doing something that doesn't allow your organization to succeed and is actually ruining the potential of it? That's one of the most important questions you really need to ask yourself. And for me, reflection has been the largest part of my learning curve here at the minor. And I'm extremely thankful for being able to learn that lesson.
One of the biggest things I've learned from this class is to deal with ambiguity. Before I entered into this class, I really liked to know exactly what I was doing. I liked to have a plan. I liked to have set expectations from the professor. When Dr. Banwart came into our class last semester and said, "What do you guys want to do? What do you guys think what would be a great project to help you define what you've learned in this class?" And I was just completely shocked. I had no idea where to even begin trying to think of this project that had no outline, it had no details, it was just completely ambiguous. And we actually were able to work together as a group, and we learned how to deal with that ambiguity, and we came up with a really great product in the end. So I'm actually very grateful that I had that opportunity to learn how to kind of go with the flow and to use my resources and talk about what I've learned without having to have that set of clear defined guidelines.
The biggest thing I got out of Dr. Banwart's class is taking a step back and going on the balcony. I know that we talked about getting on the dance floor and then taking a step on the balcony, which you can just observe what is actually going on and taking a step back. I know that we're all involved with certain organizations or even with our group of friends, and problems do arise, and there can be group conflict, but I think the biggest thing I got out of it is taking a step back, listening to what other people have to say, and then kind of analyzing the situation so you're not right there all the time on the dance floor, and you can actually analyze the situation at hand.
One of my main takeaways from this Leadership Studies minor is the pause button. For those of you who don't know, hitting the pause button means to stop whatever the class is doing and for everyone to get on the same level. This year in our Comms 531 class, we have used it probably about twice a day. And this allows for everyone to get all the confusion out and to put everything on the table to be discussed. I think that I will use this in the future and bring to the other organizations that I'm involved with because it is a main concept that everyone should be aware of.
My favorite part about the Leadership Studies minor has been the MVV project that we did in Dr. Van Wert's Comms 431 class. This project was a semester-long experience where we kind of divulged inner details and secrets about ourselves, first in like our own personal journals and reflections, and then we kind of let the class see what we were doing and see what we were thinking on a daily basis. It was really beneficial because a lot of the times we were talking about problems that we could not figure out the solutions for, or just different things that were coming up in our lives. And by allowing our classmates to see what we were thinking and what we were dealing with, they could give us suggestions or kind of feel for us, and they still check up on us every once in a while, you know, based on those problems. But it was really great because it allowed us to see different solutions and different ways to handle problems that we never would have thought of before. I definitely think that the Leadership Studies minor has been beneficial for this reason because no other class at this university would have given me that opportunity.